The idea supposedly behind democracy, which we were told as children that we're supposed to believe in this notion that we have a democracy, even though you discover later on, like in high school is when I was first told that what we call democracy isn't democracy. It's technically, the actual name is for it is a republic, and the actual definition of a democracy is something we do not have, and it's quite simply this, that a democracy is a system in which each citizen holds political office. They used to take turns. It would just be just like you do with jury duty. That your time is a schedule, and your time comes up, and you have to serve. And the same thing was with the government. It wasn't like you have to elect the mayor or the governor or the president. It was just like a letter comes and says, "Okay, it's your turn to be mayor now. Next year you're going to be mayor for 1 year." That was it. No elections. But anyhow, even what we told, the representative form of government that we have, where we do have elections, where not everybody serves on the government, but we're all supposed to at least have the right to participate in choosing who does serve on government. That is supposed to be the idea that we have self-determination. That we are not ruled by a dictator, by an autocrat, by a monarch who was born into office and can do whatever he wants and doesn't have to worry about what anybody else thinks about it, because he's more important than everyone else, and everyone else is just a pawn. And that was a system that the United States of America rejected over 200 years ago and decided needed an improvement, a system that would improve on that, so that we wouldn't be stuck having to follow orders from a bunch of self-entitled jerks who don't care what anybody else thinks. So that's the idea. The idea of democracy is that basically you have self-determination. The idea that you can get what you want, that you can create the kind of society that you want to have. That's what we're told as kids to believe in. But at what point do you find yourself realizing that it's a farce? What point do you find yourself realizing that it's all hollow and that what we have is not that? And people talk about voting for the lesser of two evils. That sure is a hell of an attitude. That sure is a hell of an attitude of resignation to the idea of futility in life. Fresh goes better in life. How about futility goes better in life? It doesn't matter what comes. Nothing matters to you. With America being apathetic, nothing gets to you. Staying apathetic, staying neutral. In America, fresh and full of apathy, full of futility, because that's the attitude that people have, and yet they shout about how free they are. Well, you're not really free when your life is merely a great big pool of futility and frustration and hopelessness and apathy. I don't call that particular freedom. I don't think if that's your definition of freedom, then I don't think freedom's particularly a worthwhile thing to pursue. The point is that we get what you want. That doesn't mean that you just sit there and you say, I want this and I want that, and it's going to be given to you like you're a spoiled child sitting on Santa's lap. No, that's not really wanting. You will get or can get what you really want, but you have to really want it. You have to want it enough to get up off your ass and do something about getting it. But you must try. You must try. You must try. You can get it if you really want. You can get it if you really want. But you must try. You must try. Try and try. Try and try. Yeah, you can get it if you really want, but you have to want it enough to keep trying. Trying and trying. And if you don't succeed, you have to keep trying and trying and trying until you get it. You get what you want. And the idea that so that's it. That's what it comes down to. That you get what you want, but you have to want it enough to make the effort to do it. And in general, what you do get is what you wanted. If you don't get something, apparently you didn't want it enough to work, to do whatever was required to get it. And what you do get, apparently, is what you were willing to settle for. That's a definition of wanting. What is a definition of wanting? Well, this is a definition or a philosophy of wanting that includes the concepts that if you're not willing to make the effort, that it's not really wanting, and that if you're willing to settle for something, then that is actually can be considered what you wanted. That's the way it is in our society. War is over if you want it. And so this is Christmas. What have you done? Another year over, a new one just begun. War is over if you want it. War is over now. That was what John Lennon said, is that war is over, but only if you really wanted enough to do something about it. And standing around holding up peace signs and saying peace, yo, peace, and holding up peace signs and putting flowers in your hair and smoking marijuana isn't going to actually create peace. It certainly is not going to end the war. It never has and never will. Never has and never will. Didn't do it 40 years ago. It's not going to do it 40 years from now. People smoking opium 200 years ago didn't do anything about anything. And people taking whatever newfangled drugs they will have invented 200 years from now, it will be the same story. And the other thing that I'm going to close on is that what Lenin said is that you get what you project. You get what you project. So there's two sides to that. I mean, in one sense, it's kind of an extension of this "you get what you want" idea. If you want war to be over, you will do what you have to do to make that happen. And if you want peace, you have to get it by projecting. You have to get it by putting that out there, putting out the notions and the attitudes. You have to have the right attitudes. If you try to do the right thing for the wrong reasons, it's never going to work. You are never going to manage to do the right thing if you're trying to do it for the wrong reasons or in the wrong manner. It's never going to work doing the right thing for the wrong reasons. You have to know why you're doing it. And so people have to stop this bullshit, which I wrote almost 3 years ago on my channel description, which I have not altered and do not intend to alter, that we must stop talking, and if we want peace, we must start thinking in peaceful terms. You cannot have, if you try to do the right thing for the wrong reasons, it's never going to work. If you try to get peace for the wrong reasons or in the wrong manner, it's never going to work. The only way to get peace is by really believing in peace and being peaceful, and not using warlike expressions and terminology. Don't talk about fighting a war for peace. Don't talk about or the war on this. Stop talking about the war on this and the war on that. War on terror, war on drugs, war on this and war on those, war on pedophiles, war on this and then, and everything's a fucking war. And as long as everything's a fucking war in your language, you're never going to stop fighting wars, because your mind is already tuned in on the frequency, on the brainwaves, on the mental the mental approach of warfare. When you keep thinking of everything as, oh, this is war on this and war on that, you're thinking in a militaristic, warlike mindset, and that mindset is never going to get anything other than what it is constructed to do. You're not going to get the right things if you do them for the wrong reasons. You're not going to get one thing if your mindset is all about the other thing. And last thing I'm going to make this the last thing. As I look at stocks and think about stocks and there's certain stocks that are definitely worth investing in, just as there always have been. If anybody who was looking ahead at the future and what was happening and where we were headed, at any point in the last 80 years, at least 80 years, could have predicted, well, here's this thing is developing. I mean, who developed the first television sets? When the first television first came out, if you had thought of buying stock in whatever the company was that made televisions, whether it was Zenith or Westinghouse or whoever it was, that would have been kind of smart 70 years ago to be buying stock in television companies, or buying stock in the television broadcast studio companies. ABC, CBS, NBC. And it hasn't stopped. It's ridiculous to sit there and think, oh, well, all these opportunities in the past, they're all gone now, and there's nothing you can do now, and everything's all the stocks are overpriced, so you won't do anything. Wait a second, do you really think that we've stopped discovering important inventions that will become successful in the future? There's constantly things that are being devised, and right now, among the, I think, important stocks is all the electric vehicles. That's going to be the wave of the future. The solar power, the wind power, the power charging stations that will need to be provided for the electrical vehicles. All of these things are the opportunities that are still ground level, because nobody's really doing much of anything about any of this. All these people claim to be developing electric vehicles, but very few of them are actually selling any of them. And of those that do, half of them are selling for like $200,000 each. It's ridiculous. It's not something an ordinary person can afford. It's only something that some celebrity from Hollywood can afford. But we can't afford $200,000 for an automobile. If we pay $30,000 for an automobile, that's really stretching it. That's stretching it by paying $30,000 and using credit to using a bank loan to stretch out the payments of this over a number of 5 to 10 years.